All right. Well, it's the top of the hour, so I'm going to give an extended, longer intro, let more people get in, but it seems like we have a solid amount in here already. I'm Teddy Helfrich. Most of you should hopefully know who I am at this point through a lot of these. I'm joined today by Jennifer Saxman, the CEO of Bild & Co. We're going to do some introductions, but the whole goal, right, is to continue providing you guys different points of view and thoughts on just how to be more effective and make your lives a little bit easier. So I'm actually going to turn over the first portion of this presentation to Bild, and then you'll hear from me a little later on. So Jennifer, I'll let you take it away.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Teddy, and thank you to Welcome Home for having us. We're very, very excited to be with you all today. So let's go ahead and dive in. Obviously, our focus is 2022 mining for gold. What is that goodness that you've got in your CRM already, right? We like to work smart, not hard here at Bild. So I know for a lot of you, you might not be familiar with Bild. So as Teddy said, my name is Jennifer Saxman. I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at Bild & Co. I also have Jocelyn Schrader, who is a longtime Bild team member and a part of our executive team. She's going to be fielding any chats that you have. So as we talk about things specific to sales training, you just go ahead and pop those questions into the chat, and Jocelyn will be fielding those for us. I've been a part of the Bild team since about 2009 is when I started. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Bild & Co., we have the opportunity to work and coach and train sales professionals such as yourself all across the country, in the UK, Canada. So we're really, really excited to be partnered today with Welcome Home. You all have an amazing, super, super sophisticated CRM that has every opportunity to allow you to prioritize your time and make sure that you are focused on sales activity that's going to yield the best results, right? And I know I'm a natural salesperson by trait as well. Data entry, being super detailed, we like to execute, but we're going to talk through how to make sure that there's a really, really good balance so you still yield those results that you would expect. I'll go ahead and Teddy, everyone already knows you, but for those that might be newer to Welcome Home, go right ahead, Teddy.
Sure. Yeah, I kept my bio very, very short and sweet since a lot of you at least have heard of me before. But, I started my career in the military, then got into technology sales, and I've been with Welcome Home since the beginning, trying to help everybody in senior living and get the best CRM to make their life easier. So I'm in Atlanta, but I'll keep mine short and sweet since I'm the not as most important person on this call. Jennifer, back to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. So let's talk about the agenda. So mining for gold, it sounds great, right? But what are we going to really do? We're going to focus in on where you should start the digging. So many of us, and Jocelyn in particular, we have the opportunity to go on site to a lot of communities just like yours. And oftentimes CRMs are inherited. They might not be well managed when you got there. There's a lot of outstanding tasks. It can be extremely overwhelming and cumbersome of where do I simply start? How do I get this in control? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the value of digital leads in 2022. And honestly, digital leads have been on the rise since about this time last year. And so making sure that we're really maximizing every opportunity and that you've got a process in place for those digital leads. We're going to talk about key sales processes. That's the function and core of what we do. We are a sales training organization. So we're going to make sure that you have long-term success plans in place for lasting results. And then Teddy is going to dive into some of the essential reports that are right at your fingertips within your Welcome Home CRM that you can access that's going to really allow you to stay proactive and on top of your CRM. This way, you're not relying on the leads that come in today, right? I know a lot of us are guilty of that. It's the start of a new month. Who am I going to close for March? I'm going to close the leads that come in during March. If we have that mindset, we are going to be unsuccessful. Why? Because when we look at, especially the dwell report and some of the other sales funnels and kind of where leads are getting stuck, In a perfect world, those leads would close that quickly, but they don't. They have the nerve to make us wait. So we're going to talk through some of those best practices to keep them engaged, excited, and wanting your product, your services, and to really be a loyal consumer of what you're selling. So where should we start the digging? So we always look at kind of this visually as, is it a lead issue or is it something else? And I will tell you, the majority of clients that we work with actually have enough leads or get enough leads that would allow them to have long-term success. What does that mean? That means it would allow them to be at 100% occupancy, or at least high occupancy, 95% and above. The challenge is that we have a couple things that happen. We have leads that slip through the cracks, right? We have calls that come in, messages that maybe never make it to us. We have digital leads that come in, especially if they come in at night. Oh, you know what? I called them, but they never called me back. And so that's where we want to really shore up your process. Like we were saying, WelcomeHome, if you're using it on your desktop or your laptop, or you're using the mobile app, which is absolutely phenomenal, makes it so user-friendly to be, we're on the fly, we're salespeople. We have it right there in our hand. We can enter our notes. We know what's going on. The biggest thing and the biggest message and mantra that I want you to take away from today is this proactive sense. You as the salesperson are in the driver's seat. So we don't want to be waiting on leads to make a decision. We don't want to put the ball in their court. We need to take action. And one of the most effective ways for us to take action is having those next steps planned. Whether it's they just came in through your website and you just see them now in your CRM, or you got your notification, or if they're a lead you've been working for months and months and months, it's absolutely essential to use those features to make sure that you've got a nice steady cadence and they're moving through your flow, your sales process at a nice steady pace. Why I'm saying this is because right at the end of 2021, as I mentioned, we have the opportunity to work with a lot of different communities, a lot of operators, a lot of REITs all across the country. And we did a sample of a CRM analysis. Lots of CRMs involved here. But what we looked at was the functionality of sales activity and where things measured up. And it's a little bit of truth serum. So I want you all to be honest with yourselves. Very first one, 52% of leads in the CRM have never toured. Now, this is a sampling, okay? Some of you might say, you know what? Nope, that's not my issue. I'm really good. Some of you might be thinking, oh, I bet mine's 52%. Maybe it's even higher. This is what we want to bring to the surface. When we talk about mining for gold, we're talking about mining for opportunities. We can't always do everything perfect. We're human. What we want to rise to the surface in today's webinar is, where are those gaps? Where are those areas of opportunity? So what does that mean? So that means that 52% of leads in the CRM have never toured. I want you all to think about, I know everyone can't see everyone, but you can see me. And I want you to think about, be honest with yourself. How many leads have you closed in your career that have never toured? So right now you are limiting over half of your CRM to be able to close because they have never toured. Very rarely. And I know every once in a while we are gifted that gift from the lead gods of someone converting sight unseen. Here's my deposit check. Let's go. That's like a fairy tale. It doesn't happen all that often. That's why we have to take the ownership in, why haven't they toured? What was the end of my last conversation that didn't build enough value for them to make that commitment, to take the time, to spend the time? And that's why the notes in your CRM are absolutely essential. The detailed notes, what's going on? What's that next step? You have such an automated process here too, that if you're doing the activity, it's going to continue to happen, especially if the web came in and called in, or you placed the call out through your CRM, or if it was a digital web lead that coming in straight to your CRM. So it's already putting you on the right foot. We just have to keep up that activity so we can monitor and make sure we too aren't falling into this pitfall of, oh my goodness, over half of the leads in my CRM have never even seen my building. Second point, 26.8% have no next scheduled step. No next step scheduled. Oh my goodness, right? Oh, you're thinking to yourself, this isn't me. I want you to check your CRM, because this, out of anything, and Jocelyn can attest, I see her shaking her head, yes, this is our Achilles heel in the industry. We don't set next steps consistently enough. What does that mean? That means that we get very, very pleasing at the close. Teddy, what I totally understand, you are a busy working guy. You're trying to take care of your mom. I can totally appreciate that. Why don't I'll give you the weekend. You let me know when you're ready. Just give me a call, right? No, Teddy's never going to call. Let's be honest with ourselves. What we need to do is we need to sit in the driver's seat and we need to schedule that next step. And here's the biggest thing. As you're looking at your leads that do not have a scheduled next step, I want you to really audit, have you built and warranted a next step? So often when we work with teams and we coach and train them, it's because they stop learning about the lead, about the prospect. We see this a lot, especially with follow-up, right? We get a shiny brand new lead, we're on it, right? We do a really good job. Discovery, the inquiry process, hopefully getting them to tour, and then they tour and they don't take action. They don't move to a next step. And then the light kind of dims and we let them go off, right? Into that abyss, into that C lead or that cold classification. And so that's where we really need and have the greatest opportunity to make sure that we are still sitting in the driver's seat at the close to say, okay, you know what, Teddy, I know you've got a lot on your plate. I know we're headed into the weekend. I know you need some time. Would it be better if I called you Monday or Tuesday? Monday would be better. Great. Morning or afternoon work better for you. That's how assertive we need to be at each engagement and interaction. And when you're doing your follow-up, we're going to get into this here in just a little bit. If you don't have enough meaning or reason, or you're scratching your head saying, well, yeah, I could schedule a call with Teddy, but gosh, I don't know where to build value. I don't know what else to say or do. I want you to challenge yourself to say, you know what, I haven't done enough due diligence and discovery, because as time goes on, as time lapses, people's needs, wants, what they value, it changes. So we're going to show you some of those repetitive questions you can keep asking someone, especially an adult child, because as you educate them more, or as they go and see the competition, what it is that they prioritize and want is going to change. 62% of leads have overdue tasks. Honestly, sometimes this can be over 70%. It happens all the time to us. And that's really a time management function. The biggest thing that I can say there is really staying on top of, and again, this is being proactive. If you have a lot of overdue tasks, I would challenge you to look at the effectiveness of your overdue tasks. Think about it. We're creatures of habit. If I have 30 calls outstanding, we use HubSpot as our CRM here at Bild. That's a sales and marketing platform for businesses like us. If I have outstanding calls, I knew I was just going through the motions. I was just scheduling a next step with Teddy to schedule a next step, so he stayed top of mind. But what's the real meaning behind that? Remember, your sales activity and each scheduled next step needs to build value. It needs to continue moving them through the process. And that's our biggest pitfall. We stop building value. We stop learning. And you're going to see in the reports that Teddy shows us in the latter half of the webinar, that's where they get stuck. And that really creates a challenge for us to re-engage them, warm them back up. Last point I'm going to make here, about 60% of leads in the CRM are labeled cold. That's consistent. Why do leads go cold? Because we stop learning about them. We stop giving ourselves meaningful purpose to follow back up. They stall out. That's why we've got to sit in the driver's seat and we've got to lead them to that next step. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because we have an abundance of opportunity to make that happen. So I want you to think about your next move and already being in your CRM. This is something that Jocelyn always talks about when she's on site. And I remember hearing it and seeing kind of teams' reactions going, no, probably not. No, this is factual. The next move in is actually already in your CRM. As I mentioned earlier, if you're continuing to rely on new traffic, you're missing the opportunity. Web leads are up at least 30%. We see organizations that we work with where web or digital leads are up 60, 70, 80%. I want you to think about what is your process for making sure that you are not missing the opportunity to build your pipeline. So I started back as a sales counselor in the early 2000s. And I remember back then when I got a web lead, and that was like something new, it wasn't real serious, right? Like, oh, it's a web lead. Well, they didn't call or they didn't walk in. Can they be that serious? We have found, especially in the last 18 months, as we have gone through this pandemic and then some, that web leads, digital leads are your walk-in tours of the early 2000s. These are your hottest, most likely to close leads. The challenge is they come in a lot of times on Mondays and a lot of times in the evenings, 9 to 11 at night. We have a lot of structures in sales where that salesperson might work a Tuesday to Saturday schedule. And 9 to 11, well, who's covering those leads? So I want to really challenge you, for those of you that are listening in today, or if you listen to the recording after this, I want to make sure that you have a process in place where you can really capitalize on those digital leads. Even if it's, and I know a lot of us have set up and you've got your amazing CRM where it can be an auto response, right? Auto response is awesome. It's great. It's letting them know, giving that security blanket, acknowledging them. And that's what people want. We're building a rapport. They want that acknowledgement. But if we don't follow up ourselves, right, as that salesperson or as that executive director, we're going to miss the opportunity. And speed to lead here is absolutely critical. You get there first, you're going to create the highest likelihood that you actually connect with the person. Because why? Why do we have so many cold leads? And why do we, fulfill so many of those conversions that we just talked about? Well, the reason for that is there are so many leads that we never get to speak to. And in our mind, well, that wasn't a real lead, right? We start to question our marketing efforts, or we start to no, the missed opportunity is us actually getting to engage with that lead. So that's where we want to give you some best practices that's going to ensure that you actually connect. So if you do not have a process already, especially for those evening leads, I know a lot of you, have things automated. That is absolutely beautiful. I love seeing that. We also need to have a process, though. I don't expect you to be calling leads at 11 o'clock at night, but what I do expect is maybe in that auto response to say, Jennifer Saxman is going to follow up with you by, within 12 hours or, next day, or, whatever the cadence needs to be. But just even that personalization of using my name, not someone from our team. Again, it's these little differences and idiosyncrasies that people remember. And remember, from that start, we're trying to build a really strong rapport and create engagement. That's the only way we convert leads. Because web leads are skyrocketing, I don't want you to conclude that, well, I'm not getting as many inquiry calls, so that's why my conversions are down. I really need you looking at that whole picture of making sure that whether it is night and weekend, or whether it is later in the afternoon or day, that you have that process to make sure that leads that are calling in, that are getting captured, there is timely follow-up. We always say that if someone does call in or inquires via the web, or your website, or is a digital lead, and it's regular business hours, Monday through Friday from about 8:30 to 5, people expect to be helped, and to be helped pretty quickly. We used to say about 2 hours. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, we have a whole research team here at Bild. Jocelyn and I sometimes place inquiries, especially web inquiries. If we don't get a response or a call within the hour, we're like, not so sure, what's going on here? Why? Because we are a part of a culture of instant gratification, right? Those of you that are sitting on here, you all know what I mean by that. We order from Amazon, we expect it in 2 days, right? Prime, 2 days. If it can't get here in 2 days, I'm not buying it. And that's the way that our consumers have become. So that's why we need to make it as a whole, as an industry, such an opportunity to hit that easy button and make it easier for consumers to actually buy from us. And what does that mean? That means that they actually need to reach us. We need to be able to connect. Again, that is going to drastically reduce those lost leads or those leads that go to cold. And think about it here. None of you on this call need, 30 new leads a month. you probably only need maybe 2 to 3 leads that you have the opportunity to convert that's going to get you to your occupancy. The majority of you have already done the greater part of the heavy lifting and hard work. You've gotten your building over 50% occupied. Now it's those incremental gains, because I know we're always going to have move outs, right? We'd love for that back door to be shut. That's not the reality of it. But what is the reality is, if we do have that unexpected month of a higher move outs, then at least we have a pipeline and a CRM where we can rely on, and we can navigate, and we can look and see in our reports, you know what? I had 18 individuals that came and toured since Thanksgiving that never committed, never made a next step. Guess who you should prioritize following up with, right? And following up sooner rather than later. Why? Because you've already built rapport. Brand new leads that are just coming in, it takes time. People want safety, they want security, they want to know who you are. You can't build a relationship with the snap of your fingers, but what you can do is you can stay in contact, and you can continue to build that pipeline for long-term success. Okay, just a reminder too, in case you joined late, we have Jocelyn Schrader from the Bild team. I'm not going to be able to field questions, but Jocelyn is. So if you have any sales questions or anything like that, just go ahead and chat her. Teddy, I will turn things over to you just to talk through some of the stats you pulled here from Welcome Home.
Yeah, thanks. So we pulled some Welcome Home specific stats, and right, like when we get to my portion where I'm going to be going through Welcome Home, obviously some of you have always required next steps as things like that. But one thing that rings universally true is that you are seeing buildup in both the pre-tour and the post-tour stage. Welcome Home, as you look right down there at the bottom point, we have a higher than industry average for all of our users on speed to lead. You guys are responding in less than 2 hours. As Jennifer said, less than 5 minutes, less than an hour, that's where you want to be in order to have the highest conversion rates. But you're having good speed to lead. So you're having that initial conversation. You're maybe having that next conversation as well. But what we end up seeing is that there's a stop in the funnel at the pre-tour stage. Folks that are interested enough to that you qualified them, you made a good connection, and you can see that there's probably about 62 prospects that are in there that have been in that stage for more than 60 days, but have never even toured. And you want to obviously maintain momentum at the beginning and try to get them into tour as much. The other thing that you'll notice is the average community in Welcome Home has 38 prospects who have toured in the last 60 days or greater really than the last 60 days and haven't moved forward into a next stage or even been closed out. Right. So what we're going to talk about when we switch towards reports and Welcome Home is maintaining the momentum to get those folks into tour, as well as once you have a tour, just like Jennifer said, staying in the driver's seat and getting those actual next steps, as opposed to being like, well, they toured, they saw how wonderful the community is, my job is done, they will likely be moving in, because we know that that doesn't always happen. So having a plan is great. And one of the ways that I'll just mention that off the bat is during that tour, having a conversation that says, when do you want to move in? Right? Ideally, what works for you? And then for you guys, one thing that we do well with Welcome Home doing is working backwards from that date. They say, we wouldn't make a move for a year. Even if they give you the year, you can still work backwards from that date and say, oh, well, there's actually a lot of steps that we'll need to take to get ready for that. That year is going to be, here in no time. Why don't we schedule, these calls that will go over these certain steps in order to progress you through. So stay in the driver's seat, keep them moving, and we'll show how to access these people to actually take action on them. And Jennifer, I'll kick it over back to you.
Sounds great. All right. We like hearing that we've got leads, right? We've got them. We've got the availability to them. What do we do with them? So we're going to give you just some quick build tools. I know this will be sent out to you all and made available following up, but this is great for those digital leads, just as an idea of the flow. The biggest thing that I want to point out here, I won't read it verbatim for you all, but look at how deep we go. As a longtime trainer here, I'm always asked, like, well, how many times should I follow up? Like what, really, or, if I don't get them on the first call, they've probably gone elsewhere. That's not always the case. And honestly, more often than not, the rule of follow-up still rings true, where it's, 5 to 6 attempts, you keep reaching out like that, you're the one that is going to win out, meaning you're the one that's going to actually connect with them. You had the tenacity in your follow-up to keep going. We used to say back when I first started, or kind of like 2010, 2014, it was always like, everyone stops at 4 attempts. You're that 5th attempt, you're going to get them. Right now, everyone stops at 1 or 2 attempts. And in all honesty, we can speak from our research team who does 300 plus shops a month. We most often don't even get a follow-up. And these are communities just like yours. Why? There's a lot, I understand, on sales plate. It becomes not as much of a priority. It gets forgotten. It gets lost in the shuffle. So that's why we're really focused on none of this that we're going to talk to you about today is rocket science, right? It's all stuff we know we should be doing, or we might think we're doing, but are we doing it consistently? That's really the key. This next tool, and this can be used even through your text, and we find text right now is where we get the best feedback, like actual engagement from a prospect or from a family member. I know most of you are probably working with the family members, not the prospect too much anymore. But just even this little etiquette here of being a little bit different, right? Everyone picks up the phone, calls, or a lot just kind of send that email, or they have an auto email set up. Again, remember, we like as much personalization as possible, but these are the questions that, and a lot of you, if you are familiar with Bild, you probably remember back in the day, the connection sheets. We are post-pandemic, or, if post-pandemic is even a thought, in the pandemic world, we are very much so focused on, and what we've seen really fall by the wayside is that skill set of, I need to ask you a few quick questions, because it's really hard for us to be able to continue to build value, build rapport, give us a reason to follow back up with you as the consumer, as the adult child, if I don't know anything about you, right? It's like, how do you make those 5 follow-up attempts if I don't know anything about Teddy? I only know Teddy and he's calling for his mom. Well, what in the world else am I going to say? Was Jennifer Saxman calling again, trying to get you again, right? We're not building value, and people treat their time like a currency. So if you are not building value and you are eating away at their time, you're diluting the value that you've built. So that's why we put in just these 4 simple questions here, just to start the engagement. I will tell you, from the majority of teams that we work with, if they text this, they might get a question or 2 back, like an actual response, like, oh, I'm looking for my mom, really concerned about X, Y, and Z. Great, something, right? So I don't want you to lose sight of, oh my gosh, I sent them this email or I sent them this text and they didn't respond. Did they open it, right? You can see all this. You can track all of this now, right? It's a beautiful thing. Are we using it though? Because remember, that new lead, that whether it's an inquiry via the phone or a digital lead, we only have such a short lifespan to be able to convert it. Obviously, the tenacity and the follow-up can work to our advantage, but we want to work as smart and effectively as possible, and asking engaging questions like this. So it's not just because this is what your competition does. Oh, Jennifer, let me send you my full packet of information. Get that right over to you. It'll answer all your questions. No, it won't. Why? Because it's not tailored to me, or I might not understand it, or I might not be well versed in seniors housing. Most people not well versed in seniors housing, right? So we've got to be that leader, because if we're sending out information and we expect for them to interpret it, guess what? We are no longer sitting in the driver's seat. And that makes it very, very hard for us to actually eventually close them. Why? Because when we say, okay, so the next step is a deposit, or did you have some questions for me first? They're going to say, whoa, 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 whoa. This is on my terms. I set the stage, right? You sent me the information. I'll tell you when I'm ready to deposit. It makes it very, very hard for us to lead them through the process, because we're the expert in our product. They're the expert in the situation, the need that's going on, but they came to you. So that's why you've got to make sure you're sitting in the driver's seat. Again, we'll make this available. It can be edited as needed. The biggest thing I want you to focus on here, though, ask some probing questions. Don't just send an email with all of your information. People see that information as a security blanket. They take it, they stockpile it, whatever they do with it. It doesn't cause them to take any action. Even if you've got all the specials in the world, you got to act quickly because it's only available till St. Patrick's Day. They know it isn't. They know that there'll be another one. So we cannot build value off of incentives. All right, I'll get off that soapbox. Meaningful follow-up from the inquiry visit. This is where we were talking just about, continuing to learn and continuing to build value. People's needs, wants, desires, what's important to them, it does change as time goes on and as they become more educated. So, revisiting, Teddy, it's been 6 months since we, really sat down and spoke, or, since we last saw each other. Let me ask, what's changed since then? Or what now is going to be your deciding factor? I'm so sorry to hear that your mom was in, hospital, now rehab. Now what's going to be most important to you? Right? What am I doing there? Even if Teddy responds very similarly to how he responded during the initial inquiry, I am re-engaging and I'm strengthening those tethers. What does that mean? That means that I'm positioning myself to know more about Teddy than my competition does. Why does that matter? The reason that matters is that's how I guarantee, or I put as many eggs in my basket as possible, that Teddy decides and his mom decides that my community is the best option. Why? Because they feel like they fit the best with me. And why would they feel that way? Well, because I know them better, because I can say, you know what, Teddy, when we were speaking last week, I know I asked you that question again, and you told me that, and maybe I repeat in Teddy's language, it is absolutely imperative that mom feels like X, Y, and Z. And I use his words, mirroring, right? We all know what that is. Physically in person, you can mirror their body language. We mirror their word choice. That's powerful. Why? Because now I sound like Teddy. It's going to increase lots of psychology here with sales. It's going to increase the likelihood that I get a commitment. The biggest thing here, though, is we've got a lot of layers. You're just scratching the surface with them, or they are just coming to you to kind of get the details. Remember that it's your job, though, to be peeling back those layers. It's as if, we always use this analogy in training, it's as if my daughter fell, she broke her arm. Just a fun fact, I used to use this analogy for years and years and years. And then a couple of years ago, my daughter actually did fall and did break her arms, but I keep using it because it's appropriate. You take her to the doctor, fell, broke her arm. Doctor, yep, it's broken. Doctor's not saying, do you want a cast? Yeah, it's broken. It could heal on its own. That's the same mentality I need you to go with. You are the expert. You are the doctor in this case. You need to prescribe them and recommend strongly what those next steps are. Are they free to choose? Are they free to go elsewhere? Absolutely. But when you are closing consistently, and we hear this all the time, especially as we go into follow-up here, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the next slide. You can come in whenever. Are you ready yet? Is it all right? Is that okay? When we are passive at our close, especially when we talk about follow-up, we are limiting ourselves. We are really impacting the likelihood that they're going to take action. Why? Because we haven't instilled enough confidence for them to have in us as the individual. You're selling a product. Your product could be the oldest one on the block, or it could be the brand new shiny penny right around the corner. It doesn't matter. If they don't believe that you have confidence and you have faith in your product, they are never going to make a commitment. That's why we always talk about, with follow-up or with at any point in the engagement, really being assertive with your close. So based on what I'm hearing, Teddy, these are the next steps you need to take. This is what's going to work best for you. Teddy still has every right to say, not ready yet, don't agree. That's okay. I'm still sitting in the driver's seat. When we say, would it be all right? Maybe. Would you like to? Is it okay? No. We start becoming a pleaser and not an advisor. And when we do that, we see a lot of leads getting stuck. Why? Well, let's think about it. Are people coming and calling us because they're going on a cruise, doing something super fun, booking a vacation? A lot of people have to make this decision out of necessity versus want. What does that mean? It means it's a very emotional decision. People don't always want to have to make this decision. They know they need it. Doesn't mean that they want it. And that's why a lot of times leads get stuck. And that's because we allow them to get stuck. We allow them to get stuck because we are not timely with our follow-up. We are not dynamic with it, meaning we're not continuing to invite them to events or think of different ideas. Or when they say, you know what, dad's really pushing back. Oh, okay, I totally understand. How about I call you a month from now? How in the world is dad's perception of things going to change? Or how have you taken action as the salesperson to change that dynamic? That's not what an advisor does. What an advisor does is, I totally understand. I've been in this situation before with families. Here's my recommendation. Let me come out and visit dad, or bring dad for the men's lunch. Don't bring him for a visit. Let's just bring him for the activity, right? That's us taking action. You've got to have a proficient process, as we talked about at the start, for capturing leads no matter when they inquire. Make sure, as a foolproof way, you know exactly who are getting notifications on your digital leads. When that inquiry call comes in, you know, old fashioned, old school, having your backup team, your A team, right? It still works. Because let me tell you what, Jocelyn and I can talk from the front lines all of the time. You would be amazed at how many first impressions where our shoppers have to call a multitude of times because they can't reach anyone that can help them. Remember, we've got to get that easy button out to make it easier to buy. You've got to make that emotional connection. That's honestly what is going to hold things together and really tether you to that lead, to that family, and to their dynamic. I still see pre-qualifying quite a bit. You know, oh, you know, they filled out the form on our website. I don't know about their budget, or you know, I don't know about X, Y, or Z, or you know, this neighborhood that they're coming from usually can't afford us. We cannot, especially in this day and age, allow for any preconceived stereotypes or anything like that, or consistencies that we've seen in the past dictate us pre-qualifying a lead. The only time we can qualify a lead is when we're connecting with them and we're talking about what it is that they want, need, what they prioritize. We've talked a lot about creating urgency and assertive next steps with what you can control. Remember, you're the one sitting in the driver's seat. You're leading them to that next step. Just a little bit more here on the stuck leads, as my mouse is stuck. There we go. So I want you to think about, don't let leads get stuck, how you can stop that cycle. We're going to look at some reports with Teddy here in just a second, but I want you to think about assertive next steps will always help you make sure that you are continuing to build value and you have control of them actually happening. If I book that call with Teddy for 10 a.m. on Monday morning and I call him when we had agreed to talk and he doesn't answer, I still have the ball in my court. I can't let my mind think, well, I called Teddy, check that off my to-do list. I called through my CRM. It shows, you know, Welcome Home shows that I did the activity. I am good to go, right? Because I know your regionals, I know your C-suite, I know everyone is looking at your sales activity. We can't phone it in though. We still have a tendency to do that. We got to make sure there is action and results behind it. So you can call 60 people in a day, but if you connect with none of them, not worth it. I'd much rather you call 10 people and connect with 5. That's a much, much better, much more productive day. Always building value at each interaction. We talked about this a lot. We're not building value. We're not giving ourselves a meaningful, purposeful reason to follow back up. You've got to consistently going back into your Welcome Home CRM and really assessing the state of your database. What does that mean? Well, we looked at that slide earlier. If you have a lot of overdue tasks, if you have, you're really scrambling, gosh, March is going to be a rough month with move outs. I just met with my director of nursing and my executive director, and I know I'm going to need at least 6 to net even. Well, you better go back last 90 days. Who came and toured and hasn't made a commitment yet? That's where you're going to have your greatest success. They are the hottest and they are the most likely to engage in a next step. Just that last bullet point, look at the tours you've completed and why they haven't closed. This is also a really good exercise of thinking about, so many of us really kind of correlate, well, they've only come to tour one time, or they've only done this, one time. just because they haven't been on 6 repeat visits back to your community doesn't mean that you haven't built enough value or warranted that next step. Let's start focusing on meaningful engagement and interaction. Remember, the majority of these people, we hear the term pent-up demand. That's the majority of still what we're getting. There's a lot of pent-up demand. These people probably needed to make decisions 18 months to 2 years ago and couldn't. Now they physically can come out, see your community, breathe some fresh air, be amongst the living again, and they need to do it, and they need to take action quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and turn things over to Teddy, that's going to take us through and navigate through some great reports you have.
There's the mute button. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to basically show you guys how to bring this to life inside Welcome Home. And there's a bunch of things that I want to target, right? It's always nice for someone who's not in your community like us to basically say, just maintain momentum, like always have those next steps. And sales is tough, it's hard. But there are some key things that you guys can do to actually make sure that you have those solidified next steps. And one of them is speed to lead, which is right here. We're tracking it. And again, it's not tracking those auto responses. It's tracking how quickly you are making that personal connection. One of the easiest ways to make sure your speed to lead is really high and efficient and fast is to use the mobile app. I'll be quite honest, I've responded to leads while we're on this webinar on my mobile app. So it's really easy to be able to interact and quickly get them what they need. The next thing that I will mention that is not often utilized by a lot of communities is we do have a Zoom integration, and video conferencing, anytime that you can get a face-to-face, whether it be in person or not, is going to be better than just a normal phone call. If you can follow up organically with an email saying, hey, I saw your request for more information. I would love to share our brochure, live with you. Do you have time for a screen share tomorrow? And then all of a sudden you share your brochure. That's going to be logged in Welcome Home and recorded as well. And then now you know what their actual objections are to different pieces in the brochure, rather than just emailing it to them and just hoping that they tell you what they don't like or that they do like, right? So encouraged you to get that face-to-face interaction as quickly as you can. Now, obviously, if you can get them to just come meet you in person for a coffee or at a tour or a home visit, whatever it is, that is even better. But think about how quickly you can maintain that momentum to establish that deep emotional connection, because that will get them in to tour. The next things that I'm going to highlight here are all of the things that you have the ability to do. Past due activities, I'm all caught up. But if I didn't, I could click view all and I can knock them out. Uncontacted prospects, as we talked about with speed to lead, you should have these. Maybe at 9 a.m. when you get to the building, you have a couple, but certainly by 9:30 or 10 a.m., this number should be back to 0. And then prospects without next activity. Some of you guys have required next steps. Some of you probably don't. But again, you can click there and make sure you have meaningful next steps. The next things that I am going to show are the tactical ways where you can start to understand how to move people pre-tour and post-tour. And one of those things is understanding your own book of business. And so there's a few reports that I want to leverage and actually make available to you guys as you know how to use them. And as I do this, there's two things I want to point out. If you have any questions about tactically some sales strategy for the Bild team, please put it in the Q&A. Please chat. If you have some Welcome Home questions, we've got some folks monitoring through Welcome Home, so we can ask those as well. But I'm going to do this, and then we're going to open it up for the floor for questions, but no reason to stop right now. Okay, so first thing that I want to show is right on your dashboard, as you're at your community, it is showing your ratios. So some things that I showed you that I'm doing really well is my speed to lead is not great. I would prefer it to be better. The past due activities, right? I'm caught up. My uncontacted prospects, I'm caught up. My prospects without next activities, I'm caught up. I'm killing it, right? But then if I go down to essentially inquiry to tour ratio, inquiry to move-in ratio, tour to move-in ratio for the last days, you see every single goal is below, is I'm red in all my goals. So even though I have maybe a next step, maybe they're not the right next steps. Maybe I'm not maintaining momentum, right? We want to focus on quantity and quality, right? It's part of the reason that we give you access to see all your activities when they're auto logged. So you can go back and review and coach yourself, or have a regional or someone else coach you. Did I say the right thing on that call? Was that text message the best it could be? Did I phrase that email appropriately? Focus on the quality. But when you are looking for the gold in your CRM, there's two things that I want you to show. One is, if I want to click into my inquiry to move in, I can hit this analyze button, and this is just finding gold, right? All I'm going to do is I'm going to change my date range to whatever I want. Maybe I want to see everybody that closed last year. But what it pulls is it shows me everybody that is still open and everybody that's been closed, right? So I've got 52 prospects that are still open. I could click in and do some analysis on them. And then here's the ones that were closed. I encourage you to re-engage closed leads based on the reasons. You never know. They might have said something right then and there, and you closed them out. But chose another community. What other community did they chose? Have I reached back out to see if they're satisfied with that community? Location, where did they move? Did I move it? Did I share that with another community in my portfolio amongst my operators so that they could get that move in? Are we collaborating as a team? Not responsive, 100% I'm reaching back out to not responsive, right? Just because they weren't responsive then, I'm clicking in and I'm going to schedule a task to maybe call them, right? And just go ahead and say, hey, it's been a very long time since I heard from you. These are the things that we last spoke about, because I'm knowledgeable, right? I went back and I looked at my calls or listened to my calls and understood what was said. These are some of the things that have changed at the community. These are some things that were important to you. This is what I would like to address. Can we get some time to talk, or whatever it is? Staying at home, you're reaching back out to staying at home, right? Because eventually they're going to choose not to stay at home. So you want to have that ability. And again, all of this you can click into. The other is knowing your lead sources, conversion ratios. We have the full lead source analysis report. We have a full lost lead report. But if you know your conversion ratios and you know which digital sources are going to yield more, and as part of this webinar, right, is we want to improve your digital conversion rates by being a little bit more responsive, you can then understand quickly what you're going to have. But that doesn't mean just if you see one with a low conversion rate to just give up on it. You know that you should still be responsive to equally to all leads. The next thing that I want to show is when you come into your reporting section, you can look at some key reports to make sure that you understand what's going on. First, dwell time report. As this is all fake data for me, but one thing that I'll highlight is with Morningside of LA. As I mentioned in the Welcome Home stat early on, your buildup, and again, some of your stages are going to be different because each operator customizes stages. But the numbers are going to be built up in this pre-tour, whatever you call those stages, the pre-tour stages. They haven't committed to tour yet, as well as post-tour, right? So that you haven't been able to get to move in. And if you come into your dwell time report and you look at the people that are greater than 60 days that have been in that stage, you are now going to find some stuff. And if you are looking for gold, what am I doing? I'm coming in my post-tour that have been in there for longer than 60 days that are in red. By the way, your numbers are up in the 30s on average for this. So you have more than just 8 to action on. I'm going to go ahead and click in to that report. And then now what it takes me to is these 8 prospects or these 30 prospects or these 40 prospects. And I can try to understand what is going on. When did they inquire, right? When was my initial contact? When was my last contact? And then more importantly, do I want to filter by other items? There is one, if you take nothing away from like the Welcome Home side of this, there is one thing that I want to make sure you guys are updating constantly, and it's expected move timing. That is when they want to move in. You should be having that conversation, as I mentioned earlier, every single time you talk to your prospect, right? It is great. Well, have your priorities changed? Are you still thinking of moving in September? Or that's when you're still thinking about making a move potentially? You should continuously update that. So when you go to the 8 post-tour people that you have, you can then come down and filter to everybody with 1 to 3 months, right? Or everybody within 30 days, or everybody to beyond 3 months, or whatever you have. And then you can action on those prospects. The cool thing that you can then do is, if now, let's say in these fake 8 prospects, I filtered it to, 4 that were said they wanted to move in within 1 to 3 months now, and I don't have, my good next steps on there, or they're all 28 days later, right? Which is kind of far away. And that's especially far away if they said they want to move in a month. Now I'm going to go ahead and schedule a call for them, send them an email all at once, or do something to get a meaningful connection with them to maintain momentum. But it's another way just to view the health of your pipeline in that report, so that you have the ability to see things, how they are, how they're moving. Because as a reminder, it's going to be green if it's healthy, it's going to be black if it's on track, and it's going to be red if they're moving it. So those are some of the key areas that I would look in terms of those reports. As a reminder, that expected move-in time is on the prospect profile, right? So you can constantly update that. But the other ones that you're going to be looking at are deeper into your sales funnel ratio, deeper into your conversion rates, deeper into your lead source, and understand what's going on. The last thing that I'll highlight is just in general, maybe you don't want to go into the reports for whatever reason. When you are in your prospect database, you can come directly to your lead source filters and say, okay, how are all of my website leads doing right now? And then I've got 3 website leads. Now I can do some analysis to make sure that I'm taking action. You can filter it by score, right? Because we talked again, right? Leads are going cold. Do I need to re-engage all of these cold leads and send a bulk email to every lead that was cold? I don't have any because I'm moving my people through. But every lead that was cold that came in that was new last year, right? So they were a new lead last year. I've been working them for over a year, or I don't have a next scheduled activity. They've been inactive for X amount of days. They've been stuck in a stage for X amount of days. Filter this dynamically and then re-engage all those people, because they'll meet the same demographic. They're everybody that inquired last year for memory care, that I haven't contacted in 90 days, right? They all have the same parameter. Are you still interested in memory care, at our community? Go ahead, bulk email them, make it personal, right? Because it pulls in their names. You can make it a little bit more personal through that, or just schedule memory care Monday call day and call all those post-tour cold leads that inquired last year, and let's get something. Maybe you make 50 calls over the course of that week, and 2 people, revive and make those next steps, and you get 1 move in. I think that was plenty worth your time if you do that. And so, as always, I could go on Welcome Home all day, right? But you have your customer success managers, you have the team. If there's other things about Welcome Home that you guys want to understand, please let me know. But otherwise, I will kick this back over to Jennifer, and then we'll kind of just open it up for questions.
Sounds good. All right. Oops. Let me share this. All right. Okay. So just kind of in conclusion here, as we are almost at the top of the hour, if you have any questions, as Teddy mentioned, and I mentioned from the start, please go ahead and chat away. We have several, both Bild team members as well as Welcome Home team members that are able to field your chats. But really just wanted to thank you for your time. Keep in mind too, should you need anything in regards to sales training, sales performance, mystery shops, all that good stuff, we're going to make sure we've got our contact information up there, as well as, your team there at Welcome Home. They're always available for you all as well. But I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions. Now's your time to ask away. And Teddy, anything else? Do you want to see us to the finish line here?
No, I think that everything was great. I saw some folks that raised their hands, but if you guys just come in and chat it out, that'll be great. We can stay on for a little bit longer and answer any questions you have. But the main things that we want to get across, right, are you have great move-ins that are in your database. Keep utilizing the reports, keep utilizing the filters, keep utilizing the mobile app, utilizing the various integrations that you have in order to maintain momentum and get them to move in. And as always, remember, you can contact your Welcome Home customer success rep or the support team at any time you want. And then we will essentially, make sure that you know how to do all these things that we're talking about. And we will continue to do these types of webinars, whether it just be, us on the Welcome Home front talking about best practices, or, like we did today with this great team at Bild, bringing in on new thoughts, new ideas for you to think about and making sure that's happened. So we'll maintain the recording and have everything open for a little bit longer. But if you guys just want to pile in any questions, if you have any, we'll stay on a little longer. We'll maybe turn off our cameras. But if you want to jump off, feel free. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your week. Sell hard for March. It's always a good month.
Hey, Teddy, there was one question in chat, if you saw that, some questions about how you guys are tracking speed to lead and about automation. Do you see that question there?
I did not see that one in chat. What's the question?
It says, so speed to lead does not count either the automated email or initial email sent from the app. It only counts when you actually interact with the lead. So yes, it's speed to lead does not count an auto response. So if it is, we have triggers, right? That a new lead comes in, it can auto send a text message or or an email. It doesn't count to that. That's not a personal interaction. It does count whenever you go ahead and then initiate an email, a text, or a phone call from them. Yep.
There was one on here as far as what is your advice for re-engaging with prospects in the post-tour stages who've gone silent? I think that's an awesome question. We always like to say, send them, first of all, let's make sure that we're sending them that we know that they're opening it. So if it's an email, a text, that we can have some engagement. But one of the most effective ways is, let's say you've got an event coming up, invite them to the event and make the comment that you're reserving their spot just in case they do decide to want to come, but that you need to hear back from them by X date. A lot of times, especially those particular generations, really do respond well to, oh, you know what, I can't come, or no, don't save my spot, I've got this, or yeah, I will come. A lot of times trying to kind of do it that way is pretty effective. The other way, simple, straightforward, if you don't have any events or anything coming up, ask a question. I've been thinking a lot about you. I just had one quick question. Even if it's just one quick question to create some engagement, a great quick question is, what's your deciding factor now, or what's going to be most important to you, or how are things impacting you? I know the last time we spoke, there was a lot on your plate. How are things going right now? Something that, again, is an emotional rapport building question is always a great avenue to pursue. That's a great question though.
Yep. The other things I would add to that is use the event platform, right? Just make sure you have the event platform where you can automatically invite them to events that you are doing, whether it be virtual or otherwise. So that event platform allows you to go ahead and filter the same way I was filtering earlier and tag them. The other advice that I would have is people love food. And if it's whether it's a cookie send or something like that with a note that says, haven't I seen you in a while, think about creative ways to get involved. Everybody loves food. You might have some good success if no one else has responded from that, but you want the ability to maintain the momentum and you want it to be personal. So just make sure that you have gone back and that you understand their needs, as opposed to, oh, I haven't talked to this person, I don't really remember them, and just firing it out.
Absolutely. There was one other one on here, and Teddy, I believe it's guided to you all more so. It's more so a classification. If I understand, does a visit to the website, is it considered a tour?
The answer, unless there's some customization that I'm not aware about for a certain operator, right. No, a visit to the website is not considered a tour, right? The visit to the website, depending on what actions they're taking on that website, is probably, if they filled out a form, they're a new inquiry. But a tour is generally considered an actual tour. We have the ability to segment out virtual tours versus real tours as activity types. So if you guys are wanting to classify that, that is a path that we can as well. And then we also, you should be seeing, right, that we we classify initial tours and repeat tours as well automatically, so that you know that each additional tour that's automatically, even though you just mark it as a tour, it's automatically classifying it as a repeat tour.
Excellent. Those are all the questions I saw on my end. Joss, are we missing anything else?
Nope. And I think one person asked if they will get the recording, and yes, the recording will be sent out
Great.
later
Perfect.
today.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Teddy, for having us. Thank you to the Welcome Home team.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And for everybody, you will have the contact information for Bild if you want to get in touch and learn more helpful tips and tricks. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Take care.